Well, good morning, Reena. Thank you so much for joining me
It's a pleasure. Really
for
happy to.
our wide podcast, Women Inspiring Success and Empowerment.
Incredible.
And I'm so delighted to be in conversation with you.
Me too.
It'll be so helpful for us and for our audience to hear about your upbringing, because I'm sure that has been a huge part
It
of
is
your
definitely
journey.
made me who I am. Absolutely. I mean, I start with the fact that I say I was a sponge at home. You know, I grew up with two incredible parents. I'm an only child. My dad and mum have been, powerhouses in the beauty industry. Mum's super creative, she knows about every product. I joke when I was a kid and she'd be the one who, found a tear in a magazine and we were in New York and I have to go and find this ant cream from whatever. Like, she's always on a mission. So she's product kind of junkie. And she's one of those organized mess people. So there's always stuff everywhere for me to see. But because of her job being an artist, there were amazing people coming into the home with that amazing creative energy as well. So there was, from photographers to models to that whole vibe that was constantly around, which was amazing. And then with my dad, he's equally creative, but in a very different way, very entrepreneurial, loves a deal, loves business, and loves making things. So he's never been out to make money. It's always been, what am I interested in? Do I want to get out of bed in the morning and like what I do? And so obviously there was a moment, they're now divorced, all well and good, but there were moments when they worked together, moments when they didn't work together, and all of that was such a melting pot for me to come home and have those types of conversations. I remember my dad teaching me about interest when I was getting my pocket money, and I purposefully didn't ask him for it so that I knew I could accrue a little bit of interest. So it's all those little kind of life lessons that happened very much in our household. But then in terms of getting into actual work, it was, for me, I wanted to be a fashion girl. I was much more into that. I did a little bit of that, did a little bit in film, and it was two industries that, to be fair, weren't that nice, if I'm honest. The beauty industry is a much more welcoming, less cutthroat, quite encouraging and supportive industry. And where it all really started for me is when I went to university. My dad had this brilliant, beautiful building called One Marylebone. There's been lots of parties and lots of things happening in there since. But at that time, it was just a mess, a wreck of a church. And he said to me, can you come up with a commercial use for it while you're at uni? Let's basically transform the building, because everything beautiful about it was covered up. And that was my first kind of foray, and why I say now, if I didn't do what I do, I would want to be an architect, because I love buildings and physical spaces and things. But that was my journey into starting to work with him. I always thought it would be a small thing. And I'm very, very lucky that I know people who work with their families that can be horrendous, when they're people that are literally over your shoulder, or they don't let you be you or let you grow or prove yourself. And I was very lucky to have a dad that was very encouraging, but with anyone who he works with, he lets you do the job. He will only give you the job if you're capable of doing the job, right? So yes, I've been up against that boss's daughter thing, but then it's made me stronger. It's made me fight that bit of kind of worth. But it's also given me amazing opportunities, as well. And so that was my first little bit. And then I joke and I say he got me into, or he had a master plan, because from there I started to do a little bit on e-com, I started to do a bit on marketing, a bit in PR, and worked my way through essentially all the different departments to get to a point where I then took over and was kind of MD of the business after about 10 years. And never left, and sort of loved it. And it gave me a proper grounding. Working in Harrods was exceptional, huge kind of achievement, and a very kind of hard but amazing luxury environment. And it's all just kind of given me this melting pot that takes me today in terms of retail experience and product, and just actually loving this industry, to be honest. I think it's a really, really great one.
And talking about your background, for your mother, your father, and how they've been influential.
Yeah.
How have those, or the key takeaways in terms of leadership?
So I mean, very interesting. So my dad, as I kind of said before, is very much, he's not a micromanager. I think he's a fantastic leader. You know, when it matters, he's there, he's strong, he doesn't wobble. And it's a lot of what I saw essentially, and I guess learned or maybe mimicked in some way until you can, you know, you fake it till you make it to a certain point, right? But I saw a lot of that kind of always having the door open, you know, always listening, never thinking you're the only one that's right in the room. My dad was really great at that. And I think I've got that element of, you know, prove me wrong and then let's do it. You know, there's absolutely no, I will not stand my ground and be like, I think this, so that's what we're doing. Always keeping an open mind and open ears. But that leadership bit for me is very much, I often say my job is helping my managers, helping them do their job. You know, it's not to do their job and it's not to jump in. It's not to even push or probe or focus sometimes. It's to help them. It's to help them. That's what I'm there to do, because I'm employing them because they're fantastic at what they do and I need to encourage and nurture that. So for me, that's a huge, huge part of it. Also while steering the ship and seeing the big picture. But I think his way of allowing people to actually do what they're supposed to do has been something that's really kind of come through or filtered through with me, which, like I said before, I've really seen not happen in lots of places, and I find that very, very hard. People just can't grow or can't produce in that kind of stagnant or overly kind of environment. So I'm not a fan of that at all.
And as a woman, for our wise audience,
Yes, absolutely.
what's your advice to women out there who are looking to take that leap of faith and start up their own brand?
Whether you're starting up or whether you're in an organisation and that might not be, you know, what you want, but you've still got to command in a certain way, I would say know your worth is really important. Not letting, the second that kind of starts to waver or you don't feel like you have a place, you don't feel like you're being listened to, it's a really dangerous place to be in, because I think that can really, it can put you down and set you back, to be honest. So I think it's really important to know that you're in a place where you can be encouraged and you can be listened to and valued. If you're not, don't waste your time, right? But I think that it's really important to speak your mind, to not dumb it down, you know. Nobody really wants that, you know. Everyone wants to hear and have that value, and I think as long as you can be true to what you think and be vocal about it, you know, own your position and obviously do a good job. I think that's the biggest thing, is actually, you know, delivering is really, really important. And sometimes when everyone focuses too much on the game plan, sometimes you can be diverted from what you're actually here to do. But I would say the most is important is feeling like you are valued, because it goes a long way into setting you back if you're not. Don't waste your time in any of those places, because it's pointless. So that's what I would say is a big one. Find a place that you feel that.
And let's talk about Indu, the brand, and
Yes.
empowering the next generation.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, we are a brand that is absolutely about that. You know, we're focused on teenagers, young people, and they are, honestly, they're incredible. They inspire me every day. So, you know, I've been in this industry since I was 18, so 20 odd years, and it's you know, you can get quite into the grind or into the day-to-day or into this is what we normally do and this is how it works. And that's what's amazing about working with them, because there is none of that. It's completely, this is cool, this isn't cool, this is what we should be doing, this is what we shouldn't be doing. And I tell you, that was one of the reasons to do this, was to challenge myself and do something differently. I mean, there's always that joke of don't work with children and animals, and it's you know, it's a joke because they are inspiring. When we started this, we knew that we wanted to essentially fill that white space, that there was essentially nothing really for them, nothing they could champion. There was kind of cheap Tinkerbelly kind of crap, I should say, on one end, and then the adult brands. And the adult brands, you know, often the messaging is sexualized, the product isn't actually good for their skin, and the more we dug, there wasn't this piece in the middle. So wanting to have something that they could own and champion, the fashion brands do it really, really well. It just doesn't exist in beauty. So you've got brands like Subdued, Bershka, Pull & Bear, Brandy Melville that are very kind of in that time period. and then you do kind of grow out of it, and that's kind of fine. But also parents are cool with those brands, and that was what we were trying to mimic in beauty. But it was essential for us to bring them on the journey. And so we created a committee. They are involved in pretty much every major decision, you know, from branding and packaging and colours, textures, smells, what social platforms we're on, how we create content. And it's just amazing, because we would have made so many mistakes if we hadn't have involved them. They are an incredibly vocal generation, you know, trying to right the wrongs that we've done and trying to make the world better in general. And they have fantastic ideas. And I think it's why we've hit the ground running is definitely because of their involvement, you know. Otherwise, I think we would have definitely had to detour and deviate quite a few times along the way.
And in terms of which brands are you watching? I mean, beauty is a noisy space. So who do you look to for inspiration?
I mean, for inspiration, there's a lot of great brands. I mean, people who are doing things slightly differently. So whether that is, you know, interesting formulation and pushing it forward that way, whether it's, you know, creative guerrilla style marketing, you know, whether it's wonderful packaging and how pop-ups or experiences are presented. There are great brands doing wonderful things. I mean, when we look at one of the reasons I was into doing Indu was if it was just another beauty brand. There are so many beauty brands, like you just said, it's a saturated market. Things are tending to often look the same or not have that much kind of uniqueness. And this was a really clear white space for me, which is why it was exciting to do. So when we look at competitors or just other people, there isn't, I would honestly say there isn't someone who is doing exactly what we do. So when we're looking at other people, it's looking at, you know, other adult brands, because that might be what they're into. But we don't see them as competition, because that's not there. It's not a direct market that we're looking at. But I think, you know, Refi's doing some amazing stuff, you know, as much as, you know, Rhode is doing some great stuff. There are many brands that are kind of tackling things in a slightly different way, and I think that's what we think is inspiring. Starface is another one. There are, you know, just lots of cool brands out there, across different price points and across different kind of levels as well. So it's an interesting time right now, definitely.
And roll on 3 to 5 years?
3 to 5. So, I mean, we're currently, you know, quite a UK-centric brand, right? So we only launched last year. We're in Sephora, which is a huge achievement, and the right home for us to be in. And now our focus really is on international expansion. You know, we always had quite an aggressive, we wanted to be the global go-to, you know, take over the world, all that domination stuff, because it is such an underserved market and we want to get our product out there. So for us, it's about new territories, really. It's going to be about trying to grow that so that people can see us, but also do as much in real life as possible. It's a huge learning we've had. Is experience, especially with this age group, is really important. Yes, they're digitally savvy, they're on their phones, you know, they're looking and kind of curating there, but they love nothing more than something physical to go to smell, to touch, to play, to really be immersed in it. And if we can provide those types of in real life interactions, that's kind of where brands are definitely winning.
And I'm correct in saying you're looking to write a book on...
Right, I mean,
beauty marketing
rewrite
for teens, or rewrite the...
rewrite the rules,
Yes.
You know? And I think that's, again, the point. When we came into this, we saw, and this is where I think we feel the teen thing is not new. Yeah. We were definitely ahead of the game in terms of kind of realising this. And we were incredibly fortunate that when we launched, there was so much noise. You know, it was teens using retinols, what's you know, and what's going on. It became this kind of PR moment, which has definitely meant we've landed. And just like there was a menopausal moment, it still is, this is the next wave of like conversation. So it's not going anywhere. They're definitely, you know, teens are massively interested in products, you know, and again, our mission is not about making them want to buy products. They're interested. It's about supporting them essentially build a healthy relationship with beauty. They're interested, they're going to do it. Let's give them a good option, a good solution, basically. And going back to your original question, which I've gone into, but it was very much, I've lost my train of thought on that one. Hang on a second. What were we talking about?
Rewriting the rules.
Rewriting the rules, that was it. So when we looked at it, thank you, you know, a lot of these older brands were all they could aspire to, essentially. There was, like I said, the kind of cheapy Tinkerbell and that stuff. And those brands, not consciously, but they're obviously marketing to older audiences. It has an effect on a younger audience who aren't quite, they're just not as adept at, what's going on in the full kind of cycle of life in the world. And now that's what they're seeing. It is causing problems like, everything on TikTok and retinoids, and teens thinking if I use that, I'm not going to get wrinkles, and not understanding that it's a great product, just not for your age group. And that's one example, but there's many different types. And I think what we've realized is they definitely, we as brands, media partners, the government, retailers, everybody needs to do a better job, essentially. I feel it's very much a collective thing. It's not okay to just put it at one person's door. I feel like everybody needs to be mindful of who their audience is, who is watching them, how they're portraying themselves, and take a level of, okay, well, if my stuff is attracting 15-year-olds, maybe I need to make sure my marketing, I've got messages that are appropriate for that audience, or I steer well away from it because that's not my target audience, and I try to mitigate. So I think that's what I mean by rewriting the rule book. There's a lot that is not happening well for this age group, and that's beyond beauty. That's just in lots of different spheres. We see that post-COVID as well. We see this level of too much that's digital, or not enough human interaction, not enough learning in that, where mental health is definitely an issue. People's confidence, how they look, how they feel about themselves, this pressure. And that's where I go back to this mantra of, we want to help teens build a healthy relationship with beauty. It's not about looking like somebody else. It's not about, having this aspirational thing that there's all these beautiful images and that's all you want. No, you are beautiful. You are amazing. Express yourself, empower yourself, be your best self, whether that is lip balm one day and blue eyeshadow the next. Yeah. It doesn't matter. But there's not enough collective responsibility about the fact that this age group are engaging, and it's new and it's changing, and this wasn't happening to this extent 10 years ago. So it's everybody's responsibility to do things in the right way. And that's what I mean by rewriting it. I just want to make the rules right and people appreciate who their audiences are, and just not lead young people down the wrong path, try to help and empower, essentially.
Is there a favourite hero SKU you have, or that you wish you had?
I wish I had. I mean, again, this is one of the things, and why I'm so passionate about Indu, is I was lucky to have my mum. A lot of people don't have that type of expert in their household. So again, that's what leads to so much confusion. Is this right for me? Parents going, should my teen use that or not? And so my experience was a fortunate one. So, my mum had me cleaning my skin, and it wasn't a vanity thing. It was you brush your teeth, you wash your face, and I think that's something that we're also trying to push, that this isn't about vanity. This is a form of self-care as well. So going back to product, I, as a child, had quite dry, eczema-ridden skin. And I did naturally just kind of grow out of it. But for me, one of the products that I just adore and love, and I actually use now, we have a kind of tonic milk. There's a bit of an essence-y kind of, it's just superfood for the skin. Super lightweight, because again, teens don't like anything that's too thick and, claggy. But it's just like, boom, and you've just given all the best stuff in. And I use it now. I would have loved it then, because it would have just been that light relief. But it's a hero product that I love out of our range.
And talk to us about authenticity, innovation in terms of reliable packaging, or refillable packaging, should I say?
Yeah, again, so when we started, I think brands nowadays, they can't go in without a sustainable kind of approach. You'll kind of die in the waters. You need to already be thinking about how you're going to do that. And to be fair, there is no master fix for everything. Things are evolving. So I think it's, again, about being honest and transparent about, we're here, but we want to get here. We're doing our best. But when we started talking to teenagers right in the beginning, we asked them, what does sustainability mean to you? What do you care about? What don't you care about? And one of the things they picked up on was refills as a mechanism for them. So I think it was twofold. One, they were like, I feel like I'm doing something, positive for the planet, but I'm also saving money, my second purchase. So there's an element of commercial and kind of entrepreneurship in that brain. It's one thing I will definitely say. This generation are so entrepreneurial. Everyone's got a little jewelry brand or a side business. It's amazing. But that was a huge call out for them, and we have, from those conversations, built this kind of principle of 3 Rs, that we want to be refillable, recyclable, and made from recycled. Our products currently, a few of them are 3 out of 3. Everything is 2 out of 3. And that's again our kind of our purpose mission on that, but all driven from what is important to our audience and our customer. Yeah.
And let's talk about the path less travelled. So
yes,
what challenges, especially as a woman?
Yes.
As I said, we protect the leadership aspects, but love to hear more about
challenges. I think personally, I've been up against the boss's daughter challenge, and the advice I would give in that, I would say don't be put off by that, right? If you do want to work in family business and there is that stigma, you just have to block your ears out, right? But you have to know, I'm good at what I do, I have self-worth, and you will prove it. And that's honestly the only way to do it, is to get stuck in there and just show, by showing up, by doing a good job, all of that disappears and dissipates. It absolutely does. So I would say don't not do it because you're just worried about that stigma. If there happens to be a business within the family that you're passionate and you like. Then I think there were moments as well that, as a woman, there are just general challenges that people do not understand, right? And I think it's that balance of how aggressive do I need to be, or how strong do I need to be. My take on that as well is a lot of it is about delivery, So if you can actually get your point across in a calm, controlled, eloquent manner, you don't have to be aggressive, but you can show passion. I've learned that a lot actually while speaking to teenagers. You say something one way and you say it another way, you'll get a very, very different result. So I think a lot of it is about how we communicate and put things forward. And I think that goes, a long way into proving the type of person that you are, and that people want you then in a room because you can communicate eloquently and and well, basically. And I think any other challenges in the room, going back to my first comment, I've been in situations where you don't feel like you're listened to, or you don't feel valued, and also quite the opposite. And because of feeling both, I know how bad it can be when you're in that room and you don't feel like you have a place. And that doesn't mean, big seat at the board table. It can just mean in a normal conversation with your colleagues, you have to feel like you have purpose and you are in a place that is going to allow you to be. And when you don't, it's really toxic. So I would say that is a really horrible feeling. And again, repeating myself, but it's just such a personal thing to get out of any situation like that.
Do you think you've had to work even harder in order to achieve what you need, what you are wanting to achieve as a woman, as a family member?
Yes. I think that women in general really have this kind of, I'm as a mother now as well, there's an element of, everyone talks about the mental load and everything else that goes on. It's our nature to be like that, which is unfortunate, but it's also just what we're up against. So I definitely think whether it's in our brains, whether it's in our execution, we are 150%. Like it's how we kind of unfortunately have to be. I don't think it's right. I think we all need to give ourselves a bit of a break, or allow ourselves to not have to be perfection seekers, because I think that is something I struggle with as well. I want to be a fantastic wife. I want to be a fantastic CEO. I want to be a fantastic mother. And no one says I can't be all three, but all three at 100% every minute of the day is not possible. So I think we have to give ourselves just a little bit of respite in a moment to say, it's okay, I was at 80 here and I'll be at 100 there and I'll be at that there. And we definitely don't give ourselves, I just don't see women doing that enough for themselves. So I think, yes, we are. I think I definitely had some things to battle with, again, like I said, whether it is the industries that I've been in, whether it is the positions, whether it is the people that have been in the room. I think you can't shy away from those, unfortunately. If you want to succeed, you have to have that level of, I'm going to stick up for myself and I'm going to push forward. So yeah, I would say there definitely has been those instances. But yeah, I think as a gender, we all just need to give ourselves also a little bit of a break.
And talking about balance, how do you therefore balance, as you've just said,
Yeah.
as a mother, as a CEO?
I've been really fortunate that I sleep well. I think sleep is so important, really, really important. I can see when I don't sleep what a huge effect that has on me, on everything. But again, going back to one of your first questions with my dad, there was a teaching around, if you only worry about what you can impact, only worry about what you can change, don't worry if it's going to rain tomorrow, because it is what it is. You take an umbrella. Like, if you can't make a change, it's a waste of time in there. I know that's quite easy to say and harder to practice, but it's really been something that I can see with him and I can see with me. When things are tough, I'll deal with what I can deal with, and what I can't, I just have to push on and mull through. So I think that philosophy has allowed me to have a balance in general about anything, or when you're in a bad moment, a good moment. I'm generally quite a half full, positive kind of person. But I think going back to sleep and taking care, balance for me is taking care of yourself in those moments, and it is getting to bed early that extra night. It's realizing, hang on, I actually haven't used my holiday, and no wonder I'm getting cranky or I'm getting tired because I need a day off here. It's taking those moments for yourself, because no one's going to do that for you as well, right? So you've got to prioritize yourself so that you can perform and balance in all of those different areas of life, whatever that is that's important to you. So yeah, I think those things for me are essential.
What does success look like?
For me, okay, I imagine it's very different for different people. For me, I want to be able to come home to a happy household. I have a beautiful little son who is just genuinely a light. Like, he's a really happy boy, and as I just want that to persevere. I think I'll feel a huge amount of success if he just retains his happiness. And that is by being present. For me, that is about having, a loving household. So for me, my son and my marriage is a huge part to me feeling like I'm a successful human. And then, yes, I'm ambitious, and yes, I want to achieve things. So for me, is the work part of being successful is I want to come into somewhere every day, again, know I'm valued, know I'm making a difference, know that what I'm doing has a level of purpose, because I think there's a huge part. I've been really fortunate that I go to work and I like what I do, and I know that's probably not the case for 70 plus more people in this planet, and it's the one thing I would push for is, that is a demonstration of success. If you can have joy, if you can, and I don't mean every minute, because we all do parts of our jobs that are tough and we don't like, right? But the overall, there's joy in there, and there's purpose and fun and passion. That's what you should be doing, and that's the measure of success. It's not a bank account thing. I don't chase the money. I'm not chasing a title. It's chasing that feeling, and ultimately, when you have that feeling, everything I've ever done with that feeling has proved to be successful. So I think for me, it's a mastering of those two elements.
And what are parts of the job that you don't?
Parts of the job, I mean, that don't like, sometimes it's hard conversations, and as much as they might be the right thing, they're still hard, and they're still like you having to tell someone something that's fairly emotional, or are they going to react to it? A lot of it is, I say, a huge part about business relationships, and it's about emotional intelligence, knowing how to get something out of someone that works for you, knowing this is how they think, and that's what I need to do for them, and that's what will motivate them versus them. But also managing up, people at high level, it's kind of, are they going to take that this way, or are they going to take that way? So those can often be the tricky, I've got to do that today. But really, like, the other bits that I don't like, I mean, I love an Excel, but I also love getting my pens out and drawing and doodling and playing with product. So there's not much, sometimes it can be the sorry to say this, people in HR and some of the boring stuff, it can be some of those types of things that just feel not as inspiring for me, but are essential parts to any business. But it's often those bits. It's kind of the necessities, but without the kind of fun passion that are the bits that I wake up and go, oh, it's one of those days today. But I shouldn't poo-poo them because they're very, very important.
And talk about a mentor-mentee relationship. First of all, who is your mentor? And what do you look for
in
a
one?
mentor? Yeah.
I think it's really good to have one. I really do. I think that having someone to talk to and soundboard is really, really healthy and really quite important, actually. I obviously had my dad for a huge part of that. My mum too, and for very different things, you know. And I think there's no harm, you know, I think this also goes outside of the realms of business, right? It goes into, you know, you might be struggling personally, you might, be struggling in your marriage, you might be struggling in areas. If you have someone who is that really tight-knit person that you trust and you can be open with, it in any form of your life will have a positive impact. So yes, definitely they have been anchors for that and still are for very different types of things. I will still call my mum and say, have you heard about this product? What about this ingredient? Have you used that? Should I use that? And then definitely there'll be moments with my dad about sound advice of, is this too risky? Is it not? I mean, my dad is such a risk, jump in, go there person. Yeah, I'm kind of slightly in the middle. And that's why I think we worked well together, because he would pretty much try to do everything and I'd give him a little bit of a rein sometimes when we worked together. But I also now have a great guy who I think is definitely that to me, Chris Good, who's our chairman, and he is a veteran. He is a consummate professional. He was the president of Lauder Companies, and he's just again a really balanced listening board. And I think when you're looking for what a mentee should give to you, or looking to try to find who should that be, I think you should look at a mentee necessarily isn't going to be around for life, right? So I think you need to think about the short term, like what are my things that I need help with right now? And it's totally okay for a mentee to kind of grow out of their area of help for you, and you find another one. Professionally, I think that's often sometimes maybe a problem, that people stick on to people for a very long time, and you grow and then actually you need help in other areas. So I think that's a bit of advice that some people don't often do. But yeah, I think seek out what is your primary objective and what do you need help with, and try to find the person to match that in the moment.
Are you a mentor?
I officially no, but I think going back to how I value or what the importance I put on the role of a leader in a business, and then for me, the senior management that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. My job, going back to it, is to help them do theirs, to make their life easier. So I feel like it's my job to do that all the time, in that way. But I don't have an official mentee, but I'm open. I'm absolutely open.
And let's talk about, if you can divulge, any future collaborations or what's happening?
We have launched almost 80 SKUs in a year, which is a lot. And part of that is because we wanted to be this one-stop shop, avoid a lot of the confusion that currently teens and parents are having. So we wanted to go with a bang. So I think actually we're going to tone it down a little bit next year, but it's going to be very much about physical partnerships, retail partnerships, how we show up. So I can't say too much, but a lot of that I think will be fun and experiential.
And in terms of rollout internationally,
yes,
you talk about the US.
Mm-hmm.
What's after the US? Would you look at Asia?
Yeah, I mean, we've been looking at quite a lot. I mean, we've been, again, super fortunate that a brand that is just over a year old, we had a pop-up launch last October. All of the UK retailers were actually, we had offers from all of them, which was amazing, from, Superdrug to Boots to H Beauty to Sephora, which was kind of, it's unheard of when you're that new. We then had an amazing level of investment from Unilever Ventures, V3, which was our first institutional money, a year in. So there's a lot of moments where we're like, oh my God, this doesn't happen. And because of that, we've also had a lot of retailers globally that have come to us and said, we want to do this, we want to do this, etc. And I think we're just trying to balance, going into a new country, a new territory, is often where brands fall, and actually where they can make the whole house of cards can collapse because you take on too much too quickly. So for us, America is a massive country, huge feet, massive geography, lots of differentiation within the country. So that is kind of a 3-year kind of plan, to be honest, on its own. But there are other places that we just think would be kind of quicker wins or easy kind of suits, whether that is Australia, whether that is Canada. There are certain parts of Europe that I think would have, synergy. There are teens everywhere that need this product. So it's just more about trying to do it in a way that we're going to be here sustainably and for a long time. But there's definitely more territories than the US that we've got our eyes on and looking at, absolutely.
Exciting.
Yes.
And what legacy do you want to leave behind?
I think part of the reason for doing Indu was this would be something completely from scratch and something that, I going back to the parent thing and would be mine. It would be something that my dad wasn't involved in, my mum wasn't involved in. This was me and my wonderful kind of co-founders. It was our thing. So that for me is and was important. I think I feel a huge sense of purpose with this generation. I have a son now. Yes, he's only 3 and he's got a while to go to probably using some of this stuff. But I feel like just generally legacy would be if I can fulfill that legacy of helping teens build a healthy relationship with beauty, a better, make them feel empowered, make them feel stronger, make them feel like they are themselves, they can be who they want to be. I would feel that was a huge kind of accomplishment and an achievement. And to see that brand just kind of flourish, because I'll always be able to sit there and say, oh yeah, we started that. That would be absolutely amazing. It really would. Kind of, Aaron, who's one of my co-founders, mentions around when he started Feel Unique, it then sold to Sephora and has become what is Sephora UK right now. And part of his thing was like, in 10 years' time, no one will remember what Feel Unique was. And that's fine, that's great. But with Indu, it's a brand and it's here and that's the name and they will. So I take a bit of that kind of attitude of kind of that will be a level of our legacy.
Well, as I say, it's super exciting to hear what has been achieved in such a short space of time.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind couple of years, and like I said, we've all got massive passion for this, and we've got a lot of experience. So I think that's what pushes us forward. But every day, it's that kind of it's the niggle in the back of my head, particularly of like, there's a need for this, like. This needs to move on. This needs to change. There needs to be more happening here. That I think is the kind of rocket that makes me go a bit at 200 miles an hour on this particular purpose.
And that's if you had to put it down to three, 4 points of how that success
has happened.
Yeah.
I would say the first is the listening exercise with our customer, with our audience. Biggest thing. And I know, lots of brands say they do it, but it's, a poll on social or a token focus group. Ours is every single day, consistent conversation with our audience. We have a closed network. There are over 250 people in there. It grew from 30, very organic people who want to be, involved in this industry, young, amazing brains. And we're constantly talking to them. So I think that for us is, I honestly don't think there are other brands doing it to that scale. And it's definitely been the key to our success, is how we've hit the ground running and how we've kind of connected with our audience so well and so quickly. So that is a first and a must. Second, I mean, industry specific, but actually not at all, actually product specific. You got to have a shit hot product. If your product's crap, people will buy it once and that's the end of it. So, having efficacious formula, having things that are going to work is vital to success. So everything we do, we've challenged, is this going to work? Is it going to run down their face? Do they like the textures? But again, involving them in that. But I think putting product as the most, really important pillar of you've got to have something great. That's a guarantee, well, not necessarily a guarantee, but that's one of the success kind of pillars. So listening to the customers, great product. And I think having guts, right? I think this was not an easy feat. Every day we have challenges of, this algorithm has changed on TikTok. We can do this on Snapchat. No, we can't. But we're also faced with our own sense of responsibility too. You know, we're not a brand that wants to be posting 15 million times a day and encouraging kind of unhealthy habits and behaviors there as well. So that is a constant challenge, but it's a good challenge, but it's about having guts to go for it. You know, no one revolutionized the world by, you know, small. Yeah, you got to take it. You got to go for it. You got to have the balls. If you think that it's a great idea and you really believe, that honesty and passion will bring the successful kind of mission story come to life, basically.
And also looking at those brands who haven't succeeded.
Yeah. There's constant learnings everywhere. You know, we've made mistakes. We've said, let's try this, and okay, that didn't work. And other things that have been incredibly successful that we go and then do more of. So I think it goes back to listening. It goes back to whether that's, you know, people within your team, whether it is listening to your customer. It's learning, constantly seeing how other brands are winning, failing, looking at comparisons, looking for white spaces, looking for clever ideas, but always having that kind of curiosity and inquisitive nature. Very, very important. Yeah.
So what's your day what's a typical day?
A typical day. Okay, so wake up, little one starts singing. He's now singing constantly in the morning. It's his favourite thing. So, you know, that's the first thing I hear is, you know, monkeys jumping in the bed or whatever the song is. Up to him, you know, get him his breakfast and ready for school. And that's an important moment for me. I like having that hour with Max before anything else kind of comes into play. At the same time, then it's after he's sorted, you know, quickly get myself, you know, up and ready. Selfishly, our office is, you know, a 10-minute walk from my home, which is brilliant. A nice walk along the canal, actually. And then, you know, I'm in my desk. We are lucky that we have a team that likes being in the office. And I think for such a young and new company, it's really important. I think that we talk, we gel. There are things that you don't, you know, when everybody's remote, you miss out on things. You miss out on conversations and the corridor chats and the coffee chats and just picking up on things. So for a new business like us, I think it's been vital that we've had that, and everybody thrives on that, actually. That doesn't mean we're all there every single minute of the day, but the majority of the time is spent in the office. So a lot of it is checking in with everybody and kind of what their priorities are. As I said, it's often my piece is always, what do you need? What do you need me to help facilitate? But it will generally be a couple of meetings. It will be the fun best days are when, you know, Guy, who's our head of product development, says, come next door, and there's like, you know, 20 little things to go and play with and smell. And I love those days. But also when there's the bigger discussions on strategy. So, right, we're going to launch and we're going to have this takeover. How should we make it come to life? Again, because we're in such a new space in our kind of life cycle, I would say every week something like that happens, you know? So I'm going from kind of traditional kind of meetings of checking in with the team to generally one kind of 2 hour, wow, what can we do? I'm terrible with lunch. I kind of eat it way too late in the day. I try to only have 2 coffees because I get a bit of a headache otherwise. And then it's often doing this sort of stuff. So I think it's important to be out in the world and meet people as well, and have a level of, you know, again, curiosity of what's going on, visiting stores, seeing what's happening. So I always like to have a slice of my week that is doing a bit of that. And then I'm home, you know, to have that kind of, like I have the special morning hour. I like to have the special hour before bed with Max. We talk about his day and what's happened. And then I do really, really value when he's gone to bed, you know, those couple of hours to watch fantastic TV. I do love a good box set. I love, you know, from Yellowstone is just, you know, I'm so happy it's back. Anything that Taylor Sheridan does is bloody amazing. There's so many shows that he's done that are fantastic. So from Yellowstone, from Lioness, Tulsa King. So sometimes it can be crappy TV to high dramas, but I love. It's something my husband laughs at me a lot, but I I'm often very emotional when I watch TV. So I think that's where I let it all out, and I let things really, I feel a lot when it comes to TV time. So you'll be looking at me going, why? That's really set you off. Why are you crying over that little funny joke or that hug or that other? But I think it's definitely a release moment for me, and a kind of going back to the balance of things that I know that puts my brain in a different headspace. So I really, really value those last couple of hours before bed. And obviously I'm quite ritualistic with my beauty routine, so I make sure that I have the time to I like a nice long shower. I like to properly, look after and put all the creams on before bed. I generally put more emphasis on before bed than in the morning. But yeah, I think that's kind of my day, and those are the rituals that I really hone in or try to do.
And you're dedicated in doing that in terms of well, especially looking after your skin and
yeah, I think again
and
it's kind of I don't I don't go to bed with makeup on. I don't wear a huge amount anyway, but I don't go to bed with it on. If I feel like, I did cry over that TV, I'll get the roller out and try to be like, okay, let's get some of this puffiness away. I think that it's a self-care thing, and for me it's a moment to switch my brain off, to think about menial things, to focus just on something like, that's a bit dry. Okay, let me focus on here. And I think it does wonders for the brain to just stop sometimes. The whether it's stopping and doing that, whether it's stopping and just hearing some laughter, whether it's stopping and watching a bit of TV, all of those things are really important, because the brain cannot run at one level like that at any one time. It has to have its ups and downs and its moments. So yeah, I am quite rigorous with maintaining those types of things. I'm not one person to say, I'll just watch TV until 1 a.m. Like, get to sleep. I'm going to feel it the next day if I don't, So yeah, I value those moments.
Well, I've personally loved hearing you talk about culture. I mean, you talk a lot about people being in the office when you can be brainstorming, which makes life a lot easier if you're running a business. You need the interaction.
Yeah, I think there's huge debates about working from home versus the office piece, and I think obviously each company has its different needs. I've heard some funny old things where industries where people are in events or they're in food and beverage, and they want to work from home. I'm like, but your job is you can't. Your job is in front of people in that environment. So, I think if that's what you want, you then have to pick an industry, you have to pick something that suits that. But there are also cycles in a business, or times in a business's life, where you need to be much more together, and times where you're more established and maybe you can afford to have a little bit more, distance. I personally think in this type of new, younger startup environment, nothing beats the vibe, nothing beats the gel, nothing beats all coming together and buzzing off it. Having away days are really great, and having creative days are really great. Can help you get out of your rut, or help you stop just doing the same old as well. So I'm a big believer in people working together in a room, and then also just vibing off each other. I think is vital.
And another key takeaway from me that I've been listening to what we've been saying in terms of women, especially for our audience, is that it's okay not to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
And as a leader,
showing
that you have those off days.
Absolutely.
Or, as I say,
and by the way, I still struggle with that, right?
Yes.
So it's a concept. I haven't got that down pat at all, but it's definitely something that if you can't take that for you, how do you a lot of leadership is about setting an example and how you want to be. I think I've been told, and I think that I am, that I can be quite strong and tough and hard, but I have a soft and I have a very kind of emotive and empathetic element as well. So I think people know that if they're going through something, if something's going on, I feel like we could have a conversation, we could talk and be very honest and real and comforting around that. But there's the, and it's not the two edges, because you can be both, right? But I think definitely it's that level of a balance, and that not having to be 100% every single time, and letting people in to see that. Because actually, most of the time, I think people are generally inclined to be more supportive than not. You know, and I think it's important to try to help people along this journey. You know, and that's helping yourself, listening to yourself, so that you can help others as well. Again, I'm a big believer in you can only be, if you aren't looking after yourself, there's only so much you can impart and help in other areas. But yeah, if you can have that level of compassion and level of like understanding and a level of support, I think that actually it helps the whole ecosystem thrive and strive better. So yeah, I think it's that hard soft balance always.
And of course, having the male ally, obviously your husband's very
Yep.
supportive. You have an incredible chair in Chris.
Yes.
Co-founder with Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron and Richard are great kind of a great partners. I think that I think being alone and isolation is never a healthy thing in any environment, right? So whether it's having co-founders or whether it's just having colleagues that you can work with and feel that rapport, whether it's somebody at home, you need a buddy. You know, you need that, and it's very, very hard if you don't. You know, so I can't see any area of life that having that isn't going to just impact in a positive way. You know, I think it's really helpful to have that.
Reena, thank you for your time.
Oh, thank
really
you.
Enjoyed
it's been great chatting. Very easy, very flowing conversation. Sorry, I kind of about a lot of things, but I'm glad I didn't bang the mic as I was so worried about doing with this ginormous one today.
Is there anything that I haven't covered?
I mean, I think, you know, personally for me, my backstory it has come to, you know, who I am. You know, without my mum, without my dad, without those struggles, without all those different elements and dynamics of having to fight to, I wouldn't be, you know, who I am. So I think that's a very important part, and we touched on it. Indu is incredibly important and a huge passion piece. You know, I think we've got such an amazing business there, and it's all these wonderful facets that commercially an amazing white space, great partners, fantastic product, but also it is inspiring me, and I don't think many people are lucky enough to have that. So I wake up every day going, oh, you know, what's it going to be today? What's the challenge going to be? This isn't just the run of the mill. And for me, I love that. So I'm lucky in that, and that teens get to feel like they're being listened to, because I think the more, again, I spend a lot of time talking to young people, there's an element of you feel, oh, you know, and you feel like, God, yeah, we do need to do this better, and that's amazing, and why aren't we doing that? And those things wouldn't come into your brain if you weren't engaging with that age group. So I just think it's helping me actually think differently, open my eyes, grow as a human. So I can't thank them enough for that, actually. But I think touching on all of those points, as we've covered so much, and I think, yeah, we've covered the best bits as well, and the hard ones too. But yeah.
I have two boys who are 15 and 17, and
wow,
and therefore going through the challenges.
So you're in the thick of it, yeah.
So, and it's finding their voice as well, which, as I say,
completely. And there's this misconception, true, that, you know, this is a girl thing. It's not a girl thing. It's absolutely not. Boys are waking up feeling insecure. They don't want to be oily. They don't want to be spotty. You know, boys can bully in other ways, and there are equally, you know, these kind of cliques and things going on. It's not just the girl's perception of I need to be pretty or whatever. There's so much more going on, and so many more nuances in what it's like growing up nowadays. But absolutely, like there's a huge piece around wanting. I think culturally, because there's so much as well around social and fitting in, and when I say social, I mean social media as well as the social landscape of the real world, and it's finding your place and your comfort, and these are the years that you need to experiment and try and do things. But I think, unfortunately, this generation, because there is so much that is recorded and there for life, people are often just so nervous to often just be themselves. And And I think if there's anything that we, in whatever way, and I say we, whether it's business wise or just home wise or conversation wise, can it help that kind of problem that is definitely something this generation is facing, whether it's just more wholesome kind of things to look at, and not everything is about social, not everything is about that digital world. Go out there, surf, ski, play football, just meet up, chat, know what it's like to just go to a coffee shop, not know someone and be comfortable and make a conversation with someone in real life. All those things are kind of very important, and whatever we can do to just bridge this time period and help them grow up understood and listened to, I think is I just feel very strongly about it.
Well, that's what Indu stands for.
Absolutely. And I think what we've seen as well is when you meet anyone who has got children, it's instantly kind of an understood philosophy. You kind of go, whether they're newborn and you start to think ahead, or whether you've got a 15 and a 17-year-old, you're so in what they're experiencing that it's like, wow, there really is this kind of, it's hard enough being a teen anyway, let alone a teen in 2024. So I think listening is a huge part of it from an adult perspective. Getting that insight.
Well, again, incredible insights.
Thank you.
And
it's been really fun.
I appreciate